Is life more of a tragedy or is it a comedy? Now, again, most of us are probably familiar with the classic kind of theater masks and so forth, or the classic genres of theater in, well, tragedy and comedy. But yet, oftentimes, when you really get down to it, what something is termed often has more to do with the end of something rather than the actual kind of makeup of it when you really get down to it. I mean, there are plenty of romantic comedies where it seems like they're only called a romantic comedy because there's like one funny moment in the whole thing. And maybe that is just my sense of humor in some things, but again, it really seems like, okay, there's one moment that is actually played for comedy when really most of it is played for a straight romance. So it's just something that I've noticed at times. But again, we also have something like Dante's Divine Comedy, where again, it's a comedy. And part of that is because it has a happy ending, but going through there, it's not really a pleasant experience. But then that's kind of the thing is, so we have comedy as having a good ending and tragedy as having a bad ending. And again, is life a tragedy or is it a comedy? It's all a matter of perspective, yet that really does color our lives because it is our mindset. And we can see that in basically real life and also in the lives of characters and stories. And that's one of the things to really think about when writing a character is their perspective. Because when you have characters that all have the same perspective, they all start sounding the same. They don't really have any variance and so forth. So that's why you have characters that often come from different groups so they can actually have some perspective, have different goals or ambitions that may conflict with each other and so forth. But if they all kind of taught the same and so forth, there isn't really any difference between them. So it's like, why are they even there if they're all just there to basically talk each other through the same things? So again, sometimes it can work depending on the story, but oftentimes it's better to give characters varied perspectives. But and kind of in general, just having that thing of are things going to end out well or are they going to end up badly? Basically, almost like a pessimism or optimism sort of thing can actually be a good kind of thing to start with to differentiate characters. So then you can also sign of who's going to be playing the victim and who's going to be playing the victor. So you have the victim where they might think everything's out to get them or everything's going to end badly, whereas you have the victor who is like, things may be bad, but we can get through this and we'll accomplish things and so forth. So again, it's what perspective does the characters have? And again, I'm kind of saying this is like also a chat to say, okay, what kind of perspective do we have? And part of the way to really mess with this or kind of show how it works is to ask what kind of story are we writing? Are we writing a tragedy or a comedy? And are these characters in the correct story? Because the thing is that you sort of have this thing where a character can actually ruin or at least not really jive with the whole story. Like you can have something being played completely serious and headed towards a dramatic ending, but then you have the comic relief character, which doesn't fit at all and just takes people out of the narrative because you don't really need the humor for the story. And then you can also have a very tragic and moping character in a supposed comedy, and they just bring the whole mood down every time they're on screen because they don't really work with it. And again, there are probably different ways of doing this, like dark humor can often end up being somewhat tragedy, yet it's played for laughs. So, and then there's that. But and then sometimes you'd have like the comedic character actually work to just oppose that because basically they're acting funny, they think things are going to work out, and then things don't, and it adds to the tragedy. And they may actually be just because they were liked and bubbly or whatever that it adds to their tragic end rather than they were to meet it. But then you can also have that thing where the comedian was messing around and then ends up with a tragic fate. But you can also have a comedy where someone is assuming things are going to end tragically and so forth, and they're just have this sense of gravitas and seriousness around them. But everyone else is doofing off and having fun, and they actually doof off that kind of one character who has the seriousness and so forth. So basically, they're being the straight man for all the comedians out there. So again, it's something that can really be done, is that you play with it, but it also has to be done well because, again, if you have a character who's mismatched with the story, they can actually take the audience out of the story. So it's something to consider. And again, my summary is that it's both a thing to consider, both for the perspective of characters and also how it has tailored our own perspectives and how we really think about life. Are we headed for a good ending or are we headed for a bad ending? So those are just kind of my thoughts on this. So why not feel free to share yours in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, you can like and share it so that others may enjoy as well. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to our channel. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lions Mane Media, where we celebrate stories and the lessons learned from them. Thank you for listening to my musings. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.